Madoka Magica. It's an anime recommended for 7 to 10-year-olds. So why two grown men are watching this
Where
beats
does it
me.
say that? I would not let my 7 to 10 year old watch that.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Chaos, aka Kevin.
I'm Rem, aka Scott.
Today we're gonna be talking a little bit about Magica, right? I feel like I'm saying that completely wrong.
Madoka Magica.
Madoka Magica. For those who didn't understand, that was actually a joke in the very first thing. Yeah, no, this is definitely like a very it's an anime that has some dark scenes and subjects into it. That yeah, definitely wouldn't be recommended. But it also has one of those things where like it. I guess in some cases it'll trick you because it's like you look at it and you're like, oh, this is like very cutesy, right? Art style and stuff like that. Um, but it has a really, really good, interesting story, for sure. So, the best way I can explain this without spoiling anything is this basically is about magical girls, where a girl is offered to make a wish, and in exchange for that wish, she has to fight witches. That's as best as I can think of saying it without spoiling anything. This anime starts off actually, very cutesy, very fun, but it definitely takes a big turn pretty quickly into it. I would say like episode 3, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, that sounds
Um,
right.
takes a pretty big turn. And I gotta say, something that I noticed that I actually ended up thinking was really, really cool is that when it takes that turn, I don't know if you noticed, but the end credit actually changes. The first two episodes, the end credit is actually different than after it takes that turn, which I thought was actually pretty cool.
It does
Um,
it a couple times, I think. I know which one where it turns to the more darker end credit, but I
yeah,
think there's a couple different ones throughout the series.
Yeah, no, it's just like it takes different turns, and I thought it was pretty cool that it's just kind of like showing you that oh, okay, this is definitely going somewhere else, somewhere completely different. Um, so I thought that was actually a pretty cool like little detail they ended up adding it. One thing before you introduce the characters, one thing I gotta mention too that I thought was actually pretty cool is that the English version, right, English dub, QB is actually voiced by the same voice actor that voiced Morgana in Persona 5, and I thought that was actually really, really cool. When I first heard him, I was like, oh, wait, that sounds familiar. So I thought that was really cool that it was just voiced by the same actor.
So transitioning on to the characters, the main character and the namesake of this particular series is Madoka Kaname. She's a second year middle schooler if I remember correctly, right?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I believe so. And she's just your average everyday girl, um, who happens to take a wrong turn one day and get mixed up with some stuff with her other friend Sayaka Miki. And they are introduced to two other older students. Or no, I'm sorry, one older student and one other girl who transfers into their class. The girl who transfers into their class is Horima Akemi, and then the older student at their school that they end up meeting is Mami Tome. Um, and through a sequence of events, they meet another girl around their age named Kyoko Sakura, and those five girls compose the what I would consider the more main characters of the series. And then they have their kind of magical girl sidekick, QB, that Kevin already kind of talked about, who's actually the one that ends up giving them their powers throughout it. Um,
So, quick thing, since like you kind of mentioned it that way, who do you think is the protagonist of this story?
you know, it would probably have to be Homura. right?
Okay. Yeah. No, I was gonna say that because when you said like, oh, like when you started off, it sounded like you thought it might have been Madoka, but I was gonna. Yeah. No, I definitely do think it's Homura, and I mean,
Right. Well, she's like the main character, I would say Madoka is, because the whole show focuses around her, but she's not necessarily the one that's driving the
the
narrative
story.
forward, right?
Right. Right. And I mean, it kind of makes it clear, I guess, on episode 10, I think, uh, on like why like she is more than likely the main protagonist.
Right.
But yeah, no, I definitely do think Homura is probably the main protagonist, and especially I think it solidifies it after episode 10 for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, you really can't argue with that after you see everything that has happened in the background.
Yeah. Um, I gotta say something I definitely ended up liking about this anime was the art style. Especially when they're like fighting the witches. They ended up using like a different type of like animation. They made them look like paper maches.
Right.
Um, and I thought it was like really really cool because I felt like it gave it more of like this like nightmare vibe in some way. Um, and to be honest with you, with the soundtracks they end up putting in the background whenever the fight starts, I feel like it ties everything pretty well, especially for those like fight scenes and stuff like that. So I gotta say, I definitely did end up enjoying the animation. I thought it was something unique. That's something I actually haven't seen before. So I thought that was actually pretty unique for the
Yeah, no,
animation
and I
standpoint.
definitely kind of in the same vein where it's almost like everything is in like in the when they're fighting the witches, I forget the labyrinths, I think is what they call them, the witches labyrinths.
Yeah.
Um Everything kind of like has this like halfway between creepy and cute vibe, so it's just very unsettling. Like it's not too far one way or the other. Like it takes a nice middle road of you can tell that there's cute aspects to the design, but it's still very unsettling and very much not as it should be.
Yeah, I did notice though a lot of the times it would start very cutesy, especially when like introducing, um, like for example, the first time they kind of run into them, you see them and they're kind of cutesy, but it kind of slowly moves into like this like creepy aspect, and I think they actually picked a really good like way to transition that into going from cutesy to like, oh wow, okay, this is starting to get really creepy. Every single time they did it, I thought it was actually pretty phenomenal. So I
Yeah,
gotta
no.
definitely give it
And I
fair.
think too, one of the things that they did is I think towards the end of a lot of the fights, or in the more like um I don't know how I want to say it, but like the more like I want to say critical, but like it wasn't like this show just had a lot of fights to have fights. But in like certain fights and towards the end of a lot of fights, like there would almost be like less animation, like how they would just go to the silhouettes instead of fully animating everything.
Yeah, yeah, and they would show you like very specific like facial facial not structure.
Expressions.
Yeah, facial expression. They'll show you like specific facial expressions to kind of show you like how the character's doing or how the character's starting to like like move forward, I guess, from like wherever they are at that point. I thought that was pretty well done too.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I think they did a really awesome job actually at everything with the animation, transition, and yeah, I mean the music too. Like it created a really great balance overall.
Yeah, no, the overall atmosphere that they were able to create was definitely really good.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Um, Now that we're talking kind of a little bit about like, like how creepy it was and things like that. One thing I do gotta say is that I feel like, unfortunately for me, it didn't have like such a big impact that I feel like it had on other people. Cause I kinda, I didn't know about this anime in specific, but I know about like, I always hear people talk about like magical girls and how they kind of play around with like dark themes, right, and things like that. So I kind of already figured that this was gonna go into like this dark theme, right? So I gotta say I kind of was expecting it a little bit. I didn't go in too blindly. I feel like if I might have gone, without knowing, it would have definitely given me that whoa factor a little bit more. Um, there were also some points that I kind of want to talk about later that I was a little confused about, but I can't really mention it without giving spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about before this, I read this a couple years back, so obviously I knew what I was getting into, but even when I read it, I already knew what I was getting into, um, because, I had seen a lot of people talk about this specific series online, just for that shock factor. And I think this kind of reminds me of a conversation. I doubt you remember. We had it probably 5 years ago now, about another anime, Golden Time. I think that's what it's called. It's a romance one. Does that ring a bell?
Maybe I'm pretty sure I've watched that anime.
Yeah, no, because I remember watching it, and I don't remember what it was about it, but there was something about it that like it's very like cliche now, like a very like commonly done trope. And I when I watched it, I was like, oh, this is just like another like generic of this. And you're like, oh no, well this was like the first one to do it and start that. And I was like, okay, that makes sense then as to why. Um, you know, to me, it just somebody who'd seen that trope done over and over and over again, going back and watching it was kind of like, oh, like what is this? This is whatever. Versus kind of the same thing where like at the time I wasn't really aware that this was the direction that Magical Girls series were going in. So it was still very much like when I thought of Magical Girls, I just think of like, you know, the super over the top, kind of, same kind of thing as a shonen, just, made for girls instead of boys. Uh so I definitely see like how that could affect how you viewed it, you know?
Yeah, and I mean I do understand that it definitely had an impact on people, especially if they watched it like earlier, because I believe this was the first like magical girl that took like a really deep dive into like a really dark theme. Because like I'm not gonna lie, like the things that happen in the anime are actually pretty dark. um but again, it's like when you're kind of expecting something, I guess it doesn't have that big impact on you. But
No, of course not.
um yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying though. But yeah, no, man, like I gotta say though, the one thing I just gotta throw out there, the friend of Makoto and Sayaka,
Madoka.
I did not like her, bro. I did not like her
Who?
whatsoever.
Sayaka?
No, 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 no. Her friend, the third one, the one
Oh,
that just,
Hitomi?
yeah, the one that just completely set her off. Because I was like, dude, okay, maybe they just didn't show it, right? Maybe they just didn't show it, but I never saw her at the hospital. Like that's all I'm saying. So
No,
it's like,
I don't think she ever did, from what I remember.
yeah, and like for her to just kind of come out there like that, I was kind of like, dude, really? Like, come on. Like that, I don't know. I thought that was pretty like a pretty shitty thing to do, especially if like you're considering friends and stuff like that, right? So I was like,
I
oh, I
mean,
definitely don't like you.
if we want to go more into this conversation about her, though, that's spoilers, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, this will be like later on, but I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
definitely didn't like her.
yeah. No, I mean, I think it's more than that, and if when we get back to it later on, I'll give my 2 cents about it. But yeah, from what I remember, like she never did go to the hospital, and it was kind of like, at least from again, I read the manga like a year or two ago, most recently, I think, and from what I remember, there was like no indication of anything prior to that she had any interest in him.
Right, and maybe it's one of those things that it's just like that character just exists to like pivot the plot point, right? Kind of like how Tomoe is her character kind of only exists to like pivot that plot point. Um yeah, I feel like that's basically all her character is.
Right.
It's just to pivot that. So maybe that's what she is. Again, I don't know, but again, I just thought it was a really shit thing. I was kind of like, oh, I definitely don't like you.
Well, I mean, it's like it's only you're telling an entire story in 12 episodes, so it's not like you have a ton of time to completely flesh out.
Yeah, no, that
So,
makes a lot of sense. And I mean, obviously, it's gonna have some points where you're just kind of feeling like, oh, this is kind of just like, oh, it's just there. But
right.
either way, though, I still feel like it was still an over well done anime. So overall, I gotta say, I definitely did end up enjoying this anime. Would I recommend this to somebody? To be honest with you, probably not, unless I knew the person and I knew they had a couple other shows under their belt. I don't think this is one of those shows that it's like, this is gonna be, one of your first animes, right? And also kind of know how well they handle like some darker themes too. But overall, I think it was a pretty good anime. I,
Yeah, I mean, I would pair it the same thing. I think it definitely handles some darker topics really well, but I mean, much like any the dark fantasy series, I would be skeptical to recommend it to people in general because it does just handle darker topics that even if you are a more experienced watcher and of just media in general, they can be hard to watch if it's not something you do regularly.
yeah, I agree. So the way we're gonna be trying this out is our first part is going to be non spoilers. Second part is going to have spoilers. We're gonna be actually talking about, things that happen and things like that. So if you haven't watched this anime, definitely go check it out. This is your warning that hey, there's gonna be spoilers about the anime. Um and I guess once you've checked it out, come back maybe. I don't know. Can't really tell you what to do, but just giving you a warning that after this, it's basically gonna be spoilers of the anime.
Yeah, so basically, now that we're in the spoiler part, if we had to kind of summarize like the general idea of the story is you have QB who is an alien of an alien species who is trying to prolong the life of the universe to avoid the heat death of the universe because currently more energy is being used in the universe than what is being created. So, in order to generate more energy, they found that they could separate the souls from human girls and turn them into magical girls. And then, as they would be driven to despair in this state, their souls would become tainted, and eventually they'd become so tainted they would become witches. And when they became witches, it would output a massive amount of energy into the universe that would then prolong the life of the universe by releasing energy into the universe, which is, you know, probably not what you'd think the show is about. just looking at anything related to it, looking at any of the posters or anything. Um, and I mean, obviously, there's a lot of plot points that build up to this, and you kind of see this unfold. I mean, so the big thing, the core, well, Maudica, kind of like we talked about earlier, who is the protagonist. It's like Maudica's the center point of the show, but I wouldn't say she's necessarily the protagonist because she doesn't push the story forward. But the big thing is that QB really, really wants Madoka to become a witch because a witch, first a magical girl, then a witch, because she just has an obscene amount of energy potential that they've never seen before. But Homura is from a different timeline, and she doesn't want that to happen because her and Madoka are really she's really close friend with Madoka and all these other timelines. So she comes to the timeline where this main story takes place, and she's trying everything she can to keep from Madoka making a contract with QB uh, in order to save her, even though QB's trying hair tooth and nail to get her to do it, just because of the potential that she would have. Sounds about right, right?
Yeah, that's basically it. I gotta say, I definitely like QB. I know that's probably not something to say, but I actually ended up enjoying that character quite a bit. And I something I definitely want to talk about was the whole entire like freaking out about like your soul going into a crystal. I didn't really quite understand that because like that made sense to me, and I get that like maybe like now your body's like just a shell, but you're still in control of it as long as your crystal is near it.
Well, I think that kind of plays in to like one of the overarching like themes that the series covers is like being logical versus being like emotional
Emotional,
kind of
right?
thing, right? Because you have like we kind of talked about this, like who is the antagonist, and I said like technically QB, but at the same time like he's not necessarily doing what he's doing out of hate or anger. To him it's just this logical process that the universe needs to have happen in order to survive.
Right, and I do gotta say, like, I really ended up enjoying the explanation he gave with like how humans use like cattle's for energy resources, and it's like they have that coexistence, right?
Right.
So I gotta say, I really ended up enjoying that whole entire explanation he gave there. Um, but yeah, no, I gotta say he's probably one of my favorite characters.
Well, I think that's what it comes back to, right? Is like when how do you make a good villain? You don't make them just like unredeemably evil. You add some kind of relatable aspect to them, and I think like obviously you can take the full emotional route, and obviously the killing of any type for any reason's bad, so therefore QB's bad, but it's the same kind of thing with like Thanos from the MCU, where it's like there's all this there's not enough resources, so I'm just gonna get rid of half of everybody. Like it's, yeah, emotionally speaking, it might not be the option, but there is logic behind his thinking. So, it makes you stop and think for a second. It's not just so intrinsically evil of like, I'm just going to kill people to kill people.
Right. I mean, the wish too, it's like you can wish for anything as well. So it's like you're kind
Right.
of going in with the contract already. I gotta say though, one of the ones that kind of just took like a spin to where I was like, damn, dude, that is actually really sad. It's probably Kyoko, bro. Like her when they kind of said like her story, I was like, damn, like that's yeah, I was like, wow, like I think that's probably one of the background stories that like they kind of talked about that I was kind of like, damn, that's sad. I was that kind of gave me a little bit of an impact there
Yeah.
with like her whole entire like her wishing that people would listen to her father and her father like basically I think I don't remember exactly the word he said, but basically calling her a monster that she tainted his words and then just you know
Alt F4ing himself and the family.
yeah I was trying to figure out how to say that. But yeah, no, like basically that's what he did, and he basically blamed her for everything. So I was
Yeah.
like, damn, dude, that is heavy, especially since like these are like children. The like
Yeah.
she's literally an eighth grader, you know,
Right.
and it's like somebody you look up to just tells you that. Like I was like, damn, like yeah, no, that had an impact for me on me for real though. Um,
Oh, by American standards, they're all high schoolers.
oh really?
Yeah,
Oh,
Madoka's 14.
oh okay. Oh, I thought it was
I
like
mean, they're still
yeah,
kids.
no, absolutely.
No, if,
But
yeah, obviously at 14, you still don't really know much of anything.
I mean, that's really just going from eighth grade to ninth grade, though, isn't it?
Right. Well, so in Japan, if I remember correctly, middle school is 4 years and high school's 3 years. So they're probably no, because 14 would be first year high school. I don't know. I'm not gonna try and figure it out right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's like you're in ninth grade, like you're a freshman. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Sorry if we're wrong. Sorry. It just goes to show how long it's been. um.
But I mean, regardless, like they're young.
Yeah. No.
They're
They. Yeah.
very young.
That's somebody that I had no age should probably be told at all, but especially if you're that young.
Well, I guess in the case of Kyoko too, I don't know if they said explicitly how long it was between the events of this of the that particular point in the anime and how long ago she became a magical girl. So for all we know, that happened when she was like 10.
Yeah, that's true. But I thought they didn't last too long as magical girls, though. Isn't it
I
like they
mean,
slowly start feeling that
right, well,
despair?
that's why they have to defeat the witches and then take the grief seeds and cleanse.
Oh, right. Sorry, I completely forgot about that part.
As long as they cleanse themselves, they can keep going indefinitely. But QB kind of like pushes them in a direction of self-destruction
Yeah.
in order to create the witches.
Before we talked about Tomoe being like a pivot point, um, yeah, I mean, pretty sure we all kind of know, that it's basically her showing how dark this series is gonna be. One and two, it's like also showing both Sayaka and uh, Madoka that being a magical girl isn't like an easy thing, right? Like you're
Right.
you're
It's from
looking
just
at death every single time you step
yeah.
confront a witch, basically.
Right. Oh no, I remember what I was gonna say. I was just gonna say like even knowing their age, like their reactions are very much like on brand for someone of that age, right?
Right.
Because I mean, realistically, like if you go and look, like the vast majority of anime protagonists are in this age range of like high school for Americans, a high school age range for Americans. And a lot of the times you have these high schoolers acting like adults, whereas like a lot of the choices, especially I think that you see with Sayaka, you see her make would be very on brand for what I would like something that I would have potentially done in high school or younger. Like being very driven in the moment to extremes. But I think that too makes all this, like the stuff that happens with Tomei and Hitome, for Sayaka, just like that much more more pivotal than say someone who is older.
Yeah, and I mean it kind of shows you with like the wish she ended up making, even though like multiple people um warned her about making certain type of wish, right?
Right.
Um Still gotta say I really did not like their third friend, bro. Like, oh
Yeah.
man.
Mm.
And I mean like it's like so weird too, because all she wanted to do was hear him play, right? And he got to play again. Um cool, but like I don't know. I do think the third friend, I'm forgetting her name. Sorry,
Hitome.
Hitome. I do really do think Hitome was just like that you know pivot point, right? To really push Sayaka over the edge. And I gotta say that whole entire transition, right? Like that whole entire from like her story from like start to finish, I think was done so well on like slowly showing her just like completely just losing it and like just going over the deep end. Um with the fight with Kyoko, right? And I gotta say Kyoko was really by her side, even though she wanted to actually like kill her first time. She at the end she was really, really there by her side. Um but I think they did a really, really amazing job in that fight scene where it was just all silhouette and Kyoko steps in, but
Yeah,
huh?
I was gonna say yeah to stop her.
Yeah, to stop her, but she kills the witch, gets the seed and gives it to her and says, "Here, I don't want to owe anybody anything." But
Yeah.
you can in that fight scene, in that silhouette, you can still see her losing her mind.
Oh, 100%. I mean, she lets herself get her head cut off.
Yeah, so it's like, and she even says, as long as I don't feel pain. And speaking of that, like that whole entire thing, I think she was the one that freaked out the most, right? And I mean, I understand why, right? Like, they, um, Madoka threw her crystal just away, right? So it's like, yeah, it would affect her the most, right? Because it happened to her. And I get that part, but it's like, I also think that was another breaking point for her, realizing that, well, she's just a crystal now and not
Right.
like
Well, I
an
mean,
actual
she
person.
she talks about that because she has that conversation with herself about how she could even like approach Kyosuke, the guy that she liked and made her wish for. Now that she was basically like a zombie, she was just a shell. Like how she could ever like she questioned how she could ever have a relationship with him, knowing that, knowing that she's like that now.
Right. And I'm not gonna lie, I wish I would know a little bit more about the crystal. Cause it's like, okay, if that's where your soul lies, does that mean if you can go from body to body? Like if a soul is no longer there on that body, can you go into it and then just control it? Would that
I
be
mean,
something they do?
from the conversation that they have on the bridge when Kyoko and Sayaka are about to fight, and Madoka grabs Sayaka's crystal and chucks it onto the truck. Out like during that whole sequence, from what it sounded like, your soul is still attached to your body, but it just operates it, remotely from inside that um crystal. But I don't think it necessarily can get moved.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that because I was like, well, does that mean like, they can just move from body to body? But okay, that makes sense. But I mean, if it's still attached, then you're still that person, though. But again, it goes into that whole entire thing of logic and emotion, so I understand.
Right.
But
Well, I
do
mean, and Cupid even kind of talks about it because, like, Cupid talks about how like humans are like, oh yeah, like you guys aren't even aware of your souls.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I mean, obviously, if all of a sudden you're aware of the fact that you have a soul, and not only that, it has been removed from your body, like that could I could definitely see how that could cause like an internal existential crisis in someone.
yeah, I guess, yeah. But I gotta say, another scene that I thought was done very, very well for her was the train scene. I thought that was just honestly really, really great, well done.
When they're on the train tracks.
No, where she's on the train and there's two guys talking about like
Oh,
their
you're talking
girlfriends.
about that's Horma, right?
No, that was Sayaka.
That was Sayaka.
Yeah, she's on the train. That's when she turns into a witch.
Oh, you know what? You're right. Yeah, I'm thinking of something else.
Yeah, when she's on the train, I gotta say that was
You
very, very well done.
Yeah, where she's calling him out, you
Yeah,
know, for like,
yeah,
oh, she loves you. She's trying her hardest for you.
yeah. And then you can just see that was her final like breaking point and like the whole
Right,
entire transformation, and also her So I gotta say, her labyrinth I thought was also really cool, where it's just an orchestra. I thought that was also really cool that
right.
they
She
ended up
was like
doing
the
that.
conductor.
Yeah, yeah. So it's really really interesting how they ended up doing all of that.
Yeah, no, and I mean, it definitely hints to this idea that like all of the labyrinths that you've seen hint to
The
what these,
wishes.
witches were like as magical girls
Yeah.
and or just humans. Everything prior to the events of that. But yes, I mean, same thing too. I mean, we kind of talked about it too. How going to in the same realm, like still talking about Sayaka, how mommy kind of served the same role as No, I mean she was more than that though, because she was very like she was the one that showed them not just that she wasn't she's like obviously she was a turning point for Sayaka, but it wasn't just there to serve as a turning point because she kind of like whether it was directly but worked hand in hand with Homura to kind of dissuade Madoka from you know wishing with QP.
Wait, I'm sorry. Say that one more time for me.
So because we were kind of talking about earlier how mommy,
Hmm.
the twin tail girl with the guns,
Yeah, yeah,
she kind of just served as a point for Sayaka, to drive Sayaka's story along. But up until her death, whether it was, it wasn't obviously directly, but she indirectly was for pushing forward Homura's wishes for keeping Madoka from becoming a magical girl by kind of showing them the reality of what it meant and all that.
yeah. But I mean, like, I still think her like major thing was just to like well, used to one show you what kind of anime there was gonna be, and then two, I mean, it wasn't just Sayaka that it kind of turned away, but also Madoka as well. That like she also at that point realized, oh, this is actually something that's serious, and all of them were telling them that, hey, if you have a loving family, like, don't do it.
Right.
Um, which I think is one of the things to stop her for so long.
Yeah,
But
but I yeah, because I guess well, I mean, if I don't know, because like when you look at when you start to see more of Homura's story, where she's going through the different realities and she keeps trying to stop, like mommy's there in every single reality, and every other reality other than one, Madoka is already like becomes a magical girl or is already a magical girl.
Yeah, I mean, she's the one that shows them, how to do it, how to
but
navigate and stuff like that.
but Sayaka isn't, except for in one. Only one of them does it show Sayaka. So now I'm just wondering what happened. What happened different with Mommy in those other timelines that drove only Madoka to become a magical girl? I don't know. That just came to me. I don't have an answer for it.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, but I do understand what you're saying. Um, I
I think it
mean,
just calls into question what who Mommy is more so, and like what
yeah.
role she played. Because yeah,
Yeah, but if you also notice, the more she went back, the more of the characters were there, right? So, like, the second time she went back again, it was only them three. It was only Homura, Madoka, and Tome. But then she went back, I think it was 4 or 5 times, and then Sayaka was there. And then she went back more times, and then Koyuko was there. So it's like the more she went back, I don't know what she ended up doing or how they ended up getting introduced, but it's also something they ended up showing that the more she started going back, the more they were there.
right. Well, I mean, so yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, just without like all the context, like it's hard to say who did what exactly, right?
Yeah.
And you know, there was the big cuts between like major interactions and then Warpolgus. So and it wouldn't really show the fighting in the middle of it. It would only show the end of it. So for all we know, they were all there, and we just don't see them.
Yeah. And then I gotta say one of the one time because uh Tomoe always seemed like very calm, very nice, right? But there was one time where she like just completely wasn't and just like literally just killed off Kyoko. And that was the first time they
Oh,
realized that magical girls are actually witches. They
right. Where
turn
she's
into
just,
witches.
yeah, she's like, we have to kill all the witches, so I'm just gonna kill
Yeah.
all of you guys and then kill myself. I thought it was very weird that Maudika just kills her, like without much of a second thought. Like that seemed very
Yeah, that was also very interesting that it just happened because you would think Hamura would be the one, but I guess she was also like,
I mean, that was still early in her story, so she was still like, she very much was like a scared. She's very scared still. So
no, that was a little bit towards the end because this time she's already seen them die multiple times because
I think it,
all four of them were
so
there,
it would have been, I
five
think,
of
the
them.
third time. But I mean, even at that point, she still was very uncertain of herself. Like she hadn't really developed her fighting style yet or anything.
I'm pretty
Like,
sure she had at that point. I think she had.
well, no, I mean, so she had, but if you watch, like, she still was very nervous when she was fighting. Like she was using guns and explosives by that point, but like watching her fight in the current timeline and then in the timeline prior or after all the timelines after that one, she was because I don't think that was the one that changed. It was the one after that one where she finally like completely changed. She lost her glasses and like really just like became a different person from what she was originally.
I don't think she had glasses on that one, but I do. Yeah, I think you are right because the reason why I think is because at the end of that when they fight Purgatory, is that right? Am I remembering that right?
I believe
The
so.
the last switch. I
The
forgot the name.
one that Warpolgus, the one
Yeah,
that happens at
Warpolgus. There we
Warpolgus.
go. So when they fight Warpolgus, um, I'm pretty sure that's the time that Madoka tells him, like, "Hey, like, you gotta stop this. You gotta stop me from becoming a witch."
Oh, it asks her to crush her, kill her, basically kill her.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was the time where after that, like after she had to do that, she completely changed.
Yeah. Um
Oh no, it was that time because it was only the two of them, and she was
yeah.
like, she told Madoka like, "Oh yeah, we can do this," and then they couldn't.
Yeah, and then at the end she told her to like stop her from becoming a
Becoming
witch.
a witch,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think after that it's where like that was the point where it like kind of broke her too. But overall I honestly thought it was a really phenomenal anime, man. Really good.
Yeah, definitely. There's more. I mean, it's an entire franchise now. There's the side stories and then everything else.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, there's if I think Crunchyroll and there's a couple movies too. I think Crunchyroll has yeah, it has the side stories, but think I don't think they did as well, and I think it's different girls if I remember correctly. It looks like different girls. So, but it's like a yeah, it's like a whole thing. And from what
Okay.
it was looking like, there's quite a bit too that looks like it hasn't even been translated into English yet.
Oh, wow. Well,
So,
yeah, it kind of shows you that it still continues, even though Madoka did her wish on basically becoming a god. There were still it took a different form. It wasn't witches now; it was something completely different. I think they call them raids. Um, and Hamaru was still feeding um QB energy, basically.
right.
So it still continued, even though basically Monica eliminated all the witches. It just turned into something completely different.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, like you still need to accomplish this idea of keeping the heat death of the universe,
Yeah,
which I didn't understand why she just didn't say like I wish the heat death of the universe never would happen.
yeah. I don't know, but I do gotta say with that wish, I kind of saw something like that happening. I was like, okay, she's gonna become a magical girl, and her wish is gonna be something about protecting her friends and like family and things like that.
Oh
Like that's
yeah,
gonna be
100. I
her
mean, because that's
wish.
kind of her whole thing throughout it is like I want to protect the people I care about. I mean, and even like talk of like in one of her conversations with QB when he's telling her like, oh yeah, I don't even know how strong you would be. You have the power to be anything. Like you could be a god. Or she asks him if she could be a god, and he's like, yeah, maybe. It's possible. So
Yeah,
I mean, it's definitely hinted at.
yeah, yeah, multiple times. So yeah, I was kind of like that, but I do gotta say it was kind of heavy to know that like everybody forgot about her, even her mom. But I do gotta say though, like something that I was kind of like I don't know if that's like good, right? It's like when her mom stopped her from like going out after the whole entire evacuation because like a disaster was gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
And she just lets her go, and I was like, huh, you know, um, she was always worried about her daughter, and then at the end, it was just kind of like yeah, just go into, in a disaster that a lot of people had to be evacuated from.
Yeah, I mean, I know this is kind of like anime logic, but like she obviously her mom was probably aware there was something big going on because of like these conversations that she'd had with her. Like, I mean, obviously they were vague, but I mean that's still kind of like not just anime, but kind of like story logic of like, oh, my so and so needs to do this kind of thing, even though this is a highly dangerous thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it, but still, I was just kind of like, so yeah, I mean, I gotta say, man, this was a pretty good anime. Good recommendation. So yeah, I mean, like I said before, Would I recommend this to somebody? Probably not, unless I actually knew the person and knew how well they can handle, a darker theme, right? Um, so hey, if you think you can, I'll be,
Don't push yourself.
yeah, but obviously, if you're in this part, you more than likely have already watched that. So
Yeah, I mean this thing. It's what 10 years old now. Oh my! I don't even want to. No, it's more than that. I don't even want to think about that.
wow, it's 15 years old, right?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
January
14.
7th,
14. Right?
14.
2011. Right?
Oh yeah, 14. Wow, January 7th, 14. Wow, 14
Yeah.
years old, dude.
I don't want to think about that.
That's crazy.
We're getting old.
But yeah, hey, thanks so much if you made it all the way to the end of this. We'll end up talking more about different type of animes. To be honest with you, we're kind of trying to figure out our structure. So
Yeah,
you're
we just
here.
chose this. Uh,
Oh, sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say we chose this one because it was quick and concise, and it was a good starting point for us to kind of get the feel of how we wanted to do this.
Yeah. So hey, if you keep seeing these, you'll see the structure change. Hopefully, we land on something soon, and maybe we'll start talking about a little bit of longer animes. A little bit of yeah, a little bit longer animes, a little bit of everything, I guess. One anime though I do gotta say, before we head out, that I do want to watch. There's actually two right now. I don't know if they're still airing. I have to wait because I'm very, very impatient. I know one just came out like not too long ago, and that's Solo Leveling season 2. Um,
That literally just started like
y-
last week.
I think 2 weeks ago. Yeah, yeah. So I gotta wait until that fully comes out. But the other one is Shangri La. Shangri La season 2. I don't know if it's done airing, but
It might be done. It was airing last year, so it might be done.
might be done.
I'll tell you right this second. It is not done. I lied.
Yeah, I've heard really, really good things about season 2, so I can't wait until it's done. I want to watch that anime so badly, dude. I gotta say, season 1 was really, really good. It was a really good anime, so I'm looking forward to that. I think there's gonna be actually quite a bit of good animes coming this year, isn't there?
I mean, every year it seems like now that anime has gotten bigger, there's constantly good series getting adaptations.
Yeah, but I mean, like, a lot of continuations from different ones.
I can't think of any right now off the
Uh,
top of my head.
Chainsaw Man. That we're gonna finally get, Demon Slayer, Infinity Castle this year. What else? What else? I said
Is there
again,
anything for
Solo
JJK
Leveling.
coming out this year?
I don't know actually. I don't know if there is or not. I Dude, I saw a list and I was like, dang, there's so many good things. I think there's
Sakamoto Days.
yeah, I think there's that time I got reincarnated as a slime new season's coming out this year, right?
I could
Did I
just
see
Google
that
it.
correctly?
Let me see.
Dan Da Dan is also season 2 coming out, which I think was pretty quick, but
Not it.
not this, not this.
No, I'm just I
Oh yeah, you don't like that anime.
well, I haven't seen the anime. It's not horrible, but I think it's a little overhyped personally. Let's see. There
Ooh,
a new season of Arahara. Oh my god. I don't even think you watched. I watched it. I wow. I am. You know what? I'm not even gonna bother.
wait, was there a Mashal Magic and Muscles?
Isn't that airing right now?
I don't. Season 3 now.
Oh, bro, let's go. New season of I've been killing slimes for 300 years and maxed out my level, dude. I am. Oh, Fire Force season 3.
Yeah, they're splitting that, bro. They're splitting that. So it's gonna be part one is gonna be actually I think this month. I think it comes out somewhere this month. And then part two comes out next year.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know why they're splitting it like that. Well, actually, I think I know why. I think in the manga, this chapter is actually pretty big. Like, there's a lot that happens,
A
which I
bonus
actually
episode.
might see it because I think this is the point on where they kind of start connecting Soul Eater into it.
Oh wow,
If I've
dude!
heard right.
It's Rent a Girlfriend season 4. Wow, I'm so excited.
The one I can't
Uh,
wait for, bro, is Demon Slayer, dude.
Spy X
Infinite
Spy
Castle.
Family.
I actually haven't watched Spy Family.
Um, if this website's to be trusted, I mean that's about it.
I feel like there was more, but
Blue Box, that's already started. Blue Exorcist, Dragon Ball, Daima, Solo Leveling, Doctor Strange season 4, Apothecary Diaries season 2, ReZero season 3 part 2, um, the Attack on Titan movies next month.
I thought that came out already.
It says February 10th. Um, oh, dude, new season of My Hero, Fire Force, um, a JJK movie, Dan to Dan in July, Spy Family in October, Chainsaw, slated for this year with no date, a continuation of Bleach Thousand Year Blood War, the Chainsaw Man movie, the Demon Slayer movie, a new Fate, JJK season 3, One Punch Man season 3.
Oh, that's the one. One Punch Man season 3 finally coming out.
Yeah, that looks like it for like continuing
Dang, bro.
series.
Well, we're gonna go ahead and leave it here. Again, thank you so much if you made it to the end in the last little rumble. Yeah, expect more of these. I don't know what we got planned for the next talk, but yeah. Hope to see you guys then. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. And yeah, do you have anything else to say?
We'll see you next time.